I know you're a super busy guy, especially with what you do and what's going on right now in politics. And
These days, yeah.
yeah, there's so much stuff in the media to digest and to be able to talk about. I feel like you must be busy.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people are confused when I say this, but I think it's actually good to limit the amount of stuff of inputs. So I'll have some designated time to figure out like what's happened in the last 24 hours. What do I want to talk about tomorrow? But then I also have time to just totally unplug. So usually from the time I'm done with the Friday show until I start preparing for the Monday show, I'm not even paying attention to what's going on in the news or politics because it does get pretty toxic and just exhausting.
Mhm.
So it's more important for me to find time to just read things that have nothing to do with news, read philosophy and history and, go biking and do that type of stuff. Because otherwise just the burnout is too, it happens to everybody if you don't.
Yeah. So what is your background? Like how did you get started in all this with commentary and your show, the David Pakman show? Before all this started, what were you doing?
Well, this started so long ago that I was just in college before the pre David Pakman show era. I was a junior in college and I was sort of dabbling in college radio, reading sports scores at halftime on the college radio station and that type of thing. And I liked something about it, but it wasn't that exactly. So when a community radio station started up in Northampton, Massachusetts, which is where I grew up, after moving to the US, I just signed up and basically was given an hour every other week to do a show. And that's how it started. It went from once every other week to once a week, twice a week, 4 times a week. And then, for the last few years, it's been my full-time thing, 5 shows a week.
Wow. So currently you're doing 5 shows a week?
Right. We're a Monday through Friday show. And then on top of the hour show that we do for the podcast and the YouTube clips, we'll do a members only show for our paid subscribers. And then lately there's a lot of live streaming as well. We had the conventions, we've got the debates upcoming. So this is like, these 3 months are like the busiest of the 4-year phase.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to watch is when Trump does when he addresses the media, like in the Rose Garden or whatnot, and you'll commentate over it. That's my favorite thing to watch. It's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
and what's crazy is I started that on a whim, and people really seem to like it. And I think what people tell me is that they have some sense that it's important to listen when the president is speaking, but it's also so unbearable for a lot of people in my audience who don't like the president, where doing it in a community setting with other like-minded people is good. And incredibly, during the Republican National Convention, some of our RNC streams actually had a bigger audience than Trump's own YouTube channel, which is crazy to think about.
Wow. Yeah, do something interesting during the RNC or I don't know, the latest one he did that was in front of the White House with the White House in the background. I tried watching another person who was doing something similar where they had like their face in the bottom left corner. And I think it was on the Daily Wire's channel. The guy was sitting there like drinking some scotch or whatever. And it was so different to what you were doing because he was just sitting there the whole time like, exactly, exactly. Like he was just like nodding his head, agreeing with everything the whole time. And it was just so weird just to see like the difference in opinion or just like the way people are who are on each side.
Yeah, and I think, if Joe Biden were to win, even though I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, I think that if I covered a similar Joe Biden event, I wouldn't be sitting there just nodding along to everything. I would be
Yeah.
critiquing it, but from my perspective, which is, to Joe Biden's left. So that's interesting that there's a crowd that just liked it all and just kind of ate it up.
Do you think that Trump being president has sort of helped this niche that you're in, this niche of like political commentary or people that are more political on their YouTube channels or on any other media platforms?
Absolutely. And I've gotten people who call in and they say, are you worried your show won't do as well if Joe Biden is the president? And it's like, well, it's not that I'm worried. I know it won't do as well if Joe Biden is president, but that's okay. And we're still, listen, if Joe Biden's president, if Trump loses, he'll be triggered for at least 6 months, if not longer. So the Trump stuff is going to continue even if Joe Biden wins. That's number one. There's going to be no shortage of Trump stuff. I don't see him disappearing. I see him saying it was rigged. I see him being around anyway.
Yeah.
But then we'll also have Republican obstruction like we saw during Barack Obama's presidency. So we'll have that to talk about. And we'll also be able to critique Joe Biden from the left. And so I don't think there's going to be any shortage of material in a Joe Biden presidency. And by the way, I'm not acting like it's definitely going to happen. We could have another 4 years of Trump as well.